Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Happy New Year! I'm absolutely thrilled to be back with a Punched Out Thursday to Die For collaboration. We share ideas every Thursday on what to do with your punches and your dies. Now, my plan for 2021 for this series is to create a video every second week, like I did in 2020. And the other ladies usually put out a video every week. So you'll find links to their channels in the description box below. Now, my plan today is to create a 4-block grid and share some tips and tricks on how to really step up this humble and classic design, which is one of my favorite page designs. Here's what I'm going to be using. I have material from Vicki Boutin's Storyteller collection, along with some alphas from Simple Stories. The tools I'm going to be featuring are nesting square dies, along with that circular punch from Creative Memories. If you do not have these tools, I will tell you how you can create this page without these tools throughout the process. And for this one, it's really, really easy to do. Now, in advance, all I did was trim down 3 photos, and I did use those nesting dies, and I'll put measurements for all of this on the screen a little bit later on in the video. My foundation page is going to be that pale paper there. That's part of the Storyteller collection. It's like this fine grid paper. And I have some other paper on my desk. Now, the first thing I'm going to do to step up this grid design is basically change the shape of my canvas, the shape of my foundation page. So what I'm doing right now is cutting down 2 narrow strips of paper, and that's going to form a border on the left-hand side of my foundation page. You'll see me adhere that in a minute. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking that 12 by 12 square foundation page and I'm changing its shape by adding this border, because really what stands out as the foundation page, to me anyway, is that pale paper, and it's no longer square, it's rectangle. And because my 4-block grid's going to be really, really square, this just kind of adds a contrast. You'll see it a little bit later on when I start actually creating the grid. And while adhering this, I just want to talk about those square dies for a minute. Now, clearly you can create this page with a straight trimmer. All you have to do is cut a bunch of squares. Easy enough. However, if you have square dies, I highly recommend you try creating a grid with them if you haven't already, simply because when you cut out squares with square dies, they are perfect every time. They are identical in size. And when you do it with your straight trimmer, sometimes there's a little bit of discrepancy. So you can see how I'm going to place my 3 photos here. And the 4th block, there will be a block there, but that's going to be where I put my title. And now what you see me doing is getting out my brand new Gemini Junior. This is the 2nd time I've ever used it, and you're going to see me ruin it right now. Well, not ruin the machine. What I'm doing is I'm cutting out some squares, and it works like your Big Shot that you crank, or the one I used to use, except this one is electronic. However, I have the order wrong here. I was supposed to put my die, then the paper on top of the magnetic shim, and I did it in the reverse order, and by doing so I ended up cutting into my magnetic shim. Anyway, I stopped the camera, continued ruining my magnetic shim, and what I'm showing you now is how I cut out that frame. So with one of my squares I cut out a frame. So basically I took those 2 nesting dies, put one inside the other, the paper on top of it. That time I did it in the proper order, and then I ran it through my machine, and in doing so it created a nice little frame. So that is something you can do with any one of your nesting dies. Doesn't matter what shape, circle, hexagons, whatever. So I have all those squares there, including that frame, and now I'm cutting down a large block of paper. This measures 8 by 8, and that is basically going to be a mat where I put my grid. So I'm putting layers in each one of these 4 blocks. I'm putting measurements for everything on the screen, and I'm going to start adhering all of this together. So I start by adhering each one of these blocks. The Like I said, each block is a little bit different. Blocks 2 and 3 are identical, and blocks 1 and 4 are a bit different. 1 being the one with the white where I'll put my title, and 4 being where the frame is at the bottom. So as you can see, I adhered most of it together, but I'm simply adhering this one with the frame on top of it. Oops, I'm doing it sideways there, in the fourth block. And basically what I did to adhere that is I paid more attention to the border around the edges, the outside edges of the block. And because all of those blocks are identical in size, naturally the space in between the 4 blocks was identical. Now what you see me doing is getting out this circular punch from Creative Memory. So I'm starting with a 6x6 block, and basically what you do is you fit it in the punch and you line up the corner in the corner of the punch, and you do all 4 sides. Then you flip it around and you do the very same thing, and out pops this beautiful scalloped circle. It's absolutely gorgeous. I got it free with purchase just before Christmas there. Really, really fun. I've used it a few times already. Anyway, I have this nice scalloped circle, and basically what I'm going to do is cut it in half, and you're going to see I adhere half of it to the top of that grid and half of it to the bottom. Again, another way of stepping up the grid. So already I've changed the size of my canvas. I made it a rectangle instead of a square. My grid itself is made up of 10 blocks, 10 squares instead of just 4. So all that layering steps up the grid. And now I'm changing the shape a bit by adding a circular element on top of this block and one below it. Now, if you don't have that punch, you can either use a circle, you can use a doily, you can use a viewfinder, or you could just pile up a bunch of embellishments at the top and the bottom of this block. So that's what you see me doing right now, adhering half of that scalloped circle on top of that block, half at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is start embellishing. You can see I have all my embellishing around me. I have my 2 alphas there. Basically, I created my title. I put it on wax paper, kind of put it there so I could play with placement. So I have it there, enjoy the moment. I'm happy with that. And now I'm taking my embellishments, basically the ephemera, and building up 2 clusters, more or less in a diagonal fashion. So I'm kind of working around that photo in the bottom right. That's my focal point photo. It's the largest one. It's different than all of the other squares. And I'm also working in that corner in the top left. These are Vicki Boutin embellishments, quite large actually. And anyway, I'm happy with that. I plan to do a little bit of journaling on that tag that you see that is tucked around that photo at the bottom right. I also have that film strip there. As always, when I create my embellishment clusters, I start with the largest pieces and then I work my way up with smaller pieces. This one, there are not too many small pieces, but I do end up adding a few little kind of like tags with words on them and stuff like that. So now what you're going to see me do is speed up the film and start adhering everything to the page. Well, actually, I had already done that, but what I will do is stop and continue with my title. I end up popping up that little word expression there that says just be yourself on foam adhesive. The only thing is I have black in that bottom right hand corner there. Actually, I'll go back to that in a minute. What you see me doing right now is adding a reinforcer to that tag. So I used a hole punch and a 1/2 inch circle punch, then added a bit of twine. Now back to that black film strip that's in the bottom right hand corner. There was no other black on the page, so I went into those puffy title stickers again from Vicki Boutin, and I found something black. There was a little camera there, and that was kind of a little bit about a photo shoot. So I ended up adding that by the bird in the top right-hand corner. And all I did off camera was do a tiny bit of journaling on that tag in the bottom right, and that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to Scrapbooking Quebec, I'd be absolutely thrilled if you did. And finally, don't forget to check out the other ladies. Their links are listed in the description box below. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in 2 weeks for Punched Out Thursday. Bye-bye.